Hello chess fans, today we're going to go over my round 3 and 4 games. So in round 3 I was against the top seed of the tournament, who was a CM and rated around 2300 nationally. So a little bit higher rated than me, but I was still hoping to get the win because I had the white pieces, and also I noticed that they didn't really have two solid openings. So I went for e4, c6, d4, d5, and unlike in round 1, I did not go for the two knights, and instead I decided to go for e5 and after bishop h5, h4. So this is just basically just a more theoretical line because, okay, if you play the two knights, black can kind of get a playable position without knowing too much theory, but against the Tal, you definitely need to know a decent amount of theory, and I think I got, this is one of the main lines. Don't worry, bishop g5 is not an inaccuracy. The engine tries to claim knight f3 is better, but bishop g5 is the main line by far. Queen b6, knight b2, and if they were to take here, we have rook b1 takes here, and white would be winning. So they go queen a6 instead. This is, again, the engine says it's a mistake. This is one of the main lines. You can also play c5 or queen a6, and yeah, Carlsen has played this, and yeah, Fabiano has played this, so it has to be at least pretty good. Okay, so my opponent played queen a6. You play c4 because I don't want to trade pieces, and after bishop b4, b3, knight d7. Officially, as of this point, I was out of my theory. So basically what I knew from this position is I knew the only move I knew was knight e7, and I knew on knight e7 you have this very cool idea not to play knight f3 but instead to play knight e2. And basically the idea is that when the knight comes to f5, you're going to play knight g3, and after takes something like castles, you have the open f file and you're going to threaten this pawn on h5 at some point. And if they ever defend, they kind of just lose because of their dark squares are weak. So that was the idea, and that's what I knew. But my opponent went knight d7. And yeah, here, I don't know what I was thinking. I kind of just had a brain fart because I knew knight e2 is the best move, but I went for knight f3. And then after knight e7, I was like, oh wait, he just could have done that same thing. So here I got tricked out of what I knew somehow. I don't really know how I played knight f3, but at this point I was a little bit like, oh wait, what's happening here? But I was already up like 6 or 7 minutes, so I thought that because the game is 25 plus 5, I thought I'd have a big advantage here, so I castled knight f5, and now I don't have knight g3 and this takes idea, so I played rook fd1, and the idea was simply that if takes, I want to take with the rook, not the queen, because then I'd lose this pawn. If I take with the knight, then, I mean, yeah, just the knight doesn't want to move off the center. He castles, and here I played a mistake, but this mistake was repeated by Gawain Jones, so I think I'm in good company with this mistake. If you don't know Gawain Jones, he's like a 2700 GM. I played a3, and a3 is a mistake, and you're supposed to go for knight f1, knight g3, and I'm honestly shocked I didn't play this because I knew this idea the whole time. But okay, a3 is the actual first mistake of the game because after takes, I mean, it could be said that that bishop wasn't doing much, but here white's clearly better. They have more space. Black is kind of passive. He went for rook a c8. I went for queen c2. The point of queen c2 is I wanted to go for c5, but I was pinned, and I don't want to trade queens, so here my opponent went for c5. And I thought a long time about c5, and I ended up coming to the conclusion of the wrong move. My opponent here had 10 minutes, so they'd also already spent 15 minutes on 16 moves. So just take your time, see if you can find the best move here. It's kind of easy once you see the idea, but seeing the idea is kind of hard. So the move I played in the game was takes here. So obviously if takes here, I win the knight. So they can't do that. And you'll see how that went out for me in the game. But here the best move is takes here. And after rook takes, I thought about this position for a long time. And I was thinking, okay, the knight's pinned. I could go queen here. I could go like queen here to unpin. But then I'm pinned this way. The queen doesn't look very good here. But I missed a really nice move, which is queen d1. And yeah, queen d1 is actually just a very nice move. And I'm actually curious, why is this not good? Because after knight d4, you have this idea. Wow, that is beautiful. So instead, black would have to go rook e8, and then here we would win a pawn. And yeah, I would just have been up a pawn in 17 moves against the 2300. I think that's an opening we like. So I went for c takes. My opponent went for knight takes. And I went for queen e4. And yeah, queen e4 was just defending and attacking, defending this, keeping my center solid, and queens are good in the center if they can't be kicked. So knight c5, queen f3, just keeping defense of this pawn. I mean, I could, if I were to take here, he would take here with the fork, so I also needed to guard against that. So here my opponent went for d3, again threatening this. And here I thought for a really long time, and maybe I got a little bit too fancy. Here, maybe simple enough is to go here. What I was worried about is that my opponent would take here. And I didn't really see any. If I take here, my opponent could take here. And I thought, okay, I'm worse because of the fact that I can't really get this. So here the engine is saying something like this is the best course of action. Rook, he takes e5, takes here. And yeah, and then here the engine says 0-0-0. So player should agree to a draw. Now, I wasn't about to go for a draw because I previously lost the last round. I was in a must-win mode. So I played the move bishop f6. And originally, to a lot of you, this might look very crazy. And it is not the most sane move on earth. It is a bad move, as you can see by the inaccuracy. But takes is actually surprisingly not a good move. So after takes here, we'd be threatening this with checkmate. And what I calculated was that after queen d6, blocking the mate, I'd have queen e3. And here's where I kind of stopped my calculations because I didn't really see a defense. Let's see what the engine says. Rook f d8. And yeah, okay, then rook e1. If takes here, then queen h6 would lead to mate. So they'd have to go king h7, queen g5 threatening mate, queen f8, queen takes h5 here, check, king h8, and takes here. And then, yeah, here I didn't see any of this. I'll be honest, I didn't even see rook f d8. I kind of just got to this position and then thought the game was over. So maybe lucky there. But, so yeah, he can't take. And next, the thing I was calculating was, okay, what if he brings his knight back? Well, then pretty clearly queen g3 wins. If takes something like here, you can go for the move d6, and after he can't even take this, so you're just turning here, and there's pretty much no way to stop it. Rook c3 here, and here is pretty much unguardable. Okay, here first, keep defense of this pawn, so after here, you can take this one. So yeah, so I would have been winning there, so he can't do either of those moves. So then, I thought he was going to play here. And now after the move, so if I play this, if he takes here, I can go for this draw. Now, I saw that, but I didn't really want to draw. I'll be honest. This is just going to be perpetual, but yeah, I didn't really want to draw this game at all. And yeah, after queen h5, he kind of doesn't really have that good of an option. He can play knight e6, but this might be slightly scary after a move like this. It's kind of hard. So instead, I went for queen g3, g6, and yeah, here I kind of just miscalculated. I can't really say much. So here I wanted to play queen f4, and the idea is to go here. And if you were to play a move like knight e4, I thought rook d3 is brilliant. Knight takes here. If the queen takes here, I mate him. So that's what I calculated. And now for the second time this tourney, I again thought if I take here, if he takes with the knight, I can go queen e3, and he can't stop this with mate, so he has to give up his queen. And I still made him. And yeah, not only was this just really dumb, I think for one, he can even take here. And after takes, he's just up the exchange. But also, like, after here, he has the move king h7, which I didn't even see. Which is, I mean, why this was good earlier. But yeah, after rook takes d3, that's just a full rook gone. And then, yeah, I lost the game. So yeah, this game was one I would like to forget. Maybe I should have just gone for the draw, because knowing that that position was a draw, my opponent would probably play like, you know, a worse move in an attempt to win, like knight d7, or sorry, not knight d7, knight d6 or knight e4, something like that, and then I have more chances to win. So yeah, this game kind of just, yeah, I missed this one move. My opponent gave me a big advantage, and okay, I didn't win. So now this next game, I'm against around a 1700. I think they're also 1700 CFC. So this is the fourth seed in the tournament, and yeah, I was much higher rated than this person, so I was really hoping to win. But they were not a weak player at all. I think they'd won all their games up to this point, but they hadn't played the top two seeds. So c4, e5, here, knight c6, g3. And yeah, I pretty much always just play this knight d4 move. Very tricky. The idea is, okay, when they play these four knights, we want it to play. So if you know, after g3, a very trendy move nowadays is c6. And yeah, this pretty much gives black equality. I think nowadays, like in the top level, this is being debated, and yeah, it seems to be very good. Played by Fabiano Caruana a few times. But after knight c3, knight c6, g3, white is still said to have the advantage here because I don't have the c6 move. So what Levon Aronian, I think, maybe popularized on the top level is to play this knight d4 move. And the idea is, okay, I want to play c6, but I already moved my knight here. Let's just get the knight out of the way. And now you might be asking if takes here. So takes here is just a gambit line, and you could do your own research if you want, but just trust this is just not the greatest move in the world. For one, queen f6, just this is an example of how the game goes. I've had 2 games like this, so I don't want to reveal anymore. But bishop g2. Yeah, again, black has actually a few options here. The main move is here. You can also play bishop c5. You can also play bishop b4, but knight d4 is the most fun. Okay, bishop g2, takes. And now you might ask, okay, why am I not going for c6? And the reason I'm not going for c6 is because if this trade happens, there's just a little bit too much pressure on my center, and usually the knight would stabilize it. So now we switch to bishop b4. And the reason why we got rid of the c6 knight is because, okay, we just keep our c6 pawn flexible. Not to mention we got rid of one of the defenders of their king for one of our pieces that's usually bad. So here, queen b3. And yeah, here, officially as of queen b3, I was out of theory. So the only moves I pretty much knew was after castles was what I was going to do is take here. And if they take here, I was going to play d6. And I knew this position. White has the bishop pair, but it can be said that black is pretty much equal because what is your bishop pair really doing? Position's relatively closed. Your bishop here is pretty good. But other than that, the position is bad. And yeah, here engine says why black is equal. So I knew that. And yeah, I didn't know queen b3 whatsoever. So to me, what made sense here was to try to keep the bishop on the b4 square. And I played a5, which is the second best move. Apparently, bishop c5, the bishop's just a little bit more active here. I was worried about a move like knight a4, but then apparently bishop a7. And yeah, I didn't really want to move my bishop 100 times. So yeah, so I played a5, castles, d3. And now finally I used the fact that my knight's gone. I played c6. c6 is not the greatest move. Apparently I'm supposed to go h3. h6. I don't really fully understand why I'm supposed to play this move. So yeah, c6, maybe not the best move ever, but after bishop g5, h6, takes. I mean, that just looks better than me than not getting the bishop. So I don't think h6 was to prevent bishop g5. This I was happy about. So here my opponent went knight e4, queen d8. I'm threatening d5 with tempo. a3, bishop e7. Here my opponent goes for c5, which is definitely the best move. They wanted to stop d5 from being a threat. I went for king h8. I want to play d5, but I don't want to give up my bishop pair because if I play d5, they take. That's just a clear draw, and I was definitely not trying to draw this game. So king h8, the best move. I'm looking for f5, queen there. f5, obviously they can't take or else they lose this. Here I went for bishop f6, threatening e4. So they went queen c2, and now I went for d5 after takes. Now black is slightly better here. And why is black slightly better? First off, we have the bishop pair. And white has no compensation for the bishop pair, so that gives us a 0.5 advantage as well. Generally, also, this structure is these 2 pawns in the center versus this 2 is usually slightly advantageous for white because b4, b5 is just really nice on the queen side, while there's no real way to create some problems here with the king side unless you have queens with f4. So basically, the structure is very slightly better for white, and the bishop pair is much better for black. So here black has the structure is like a 0.1 advantage for white. The bishop pair is like a 0.5 advantage for black. And so black is better here by 0.4 according to engine. And that makes perfect sense to me. So knight c4. I went for queen c7. I didn't want to go queen e7 because I thought that the rook could come to e8. And then this would need defending. So queen c7. Rook a d1. Yeah, very confusing move. I mean, here probably you want to go b4, b5, right? So rook a b1. As recommended by the engine, as I just said, makes a lot of sense. I went for bishop e6, and yeah, this is a mistake because I had the opportunity to play a4. And then bishop e6 is always threatening b3, bishop e3 to win this, and yeah, that makes perfect sense to me. So now e3 is a little bit weakening because now you don't longer have a solid structure, not to mention f4 comes with even more power now. And so here black is -1. And now, this is the type of position that I think a lot of people hate because you're slightly better. What to do? So I went for rook a d1, or d8, sorry. I was just developing a piece. Knight d2. Yeah, my opponent really was not doing much here. So what I'm threatening is I'm threatening to go e4. And so after the bishop moves, I would take here. And then, I'm trying to remember. Oh yeah, sorry. Takes, rook takes, something like takes. Queen takes and takes here on b2, and I would win a pawn. And yeah, it's probably still a draw because it's opposite color bishops, but my opponent didn't want to go down a pawn, so they went for knight d2, defending that threat. I went for queen f7. Now, if the knight ever moves, I'm gonna be threatening the move bishop e3. And so now here for a long time I expected rook e1, or not rook e1. What move was I expecting? I think I was expecting rook e1. And the idea of rook e1 to give the knight just more breathing room, get the rook into the center, maybe threaten d4. And yeah, I didn't really have any idea what to do here. Calculated this for a long time. Engine says a4. And after takes here, oh, you take here, okay. So yeah, I didn't see that. And I was calculating that for a long time. But bishop g2 was also a move I was thinking of. So here I went queen h5. And queen h5 is sort of like... I was testing the waters to see if he wanted a draw, if in fact. Because after bishop f3, I just have to go back. And yeah, that is just 100% true. After bishop here, I would just have to go back. And after bishop g2, I'd have to find another move. And queen h5 is not the best move whatsoever. But I thought this is what's going to happen, and I'm just going to get another chance. I was getting slightly low on time here, wanted to play some quick moves. And to my pleasure, basically, he played knight b3. And at this point, I was really happy because as soon as he played knight b3, he no longer has bishop f3, and he brought another piece closer to the queen side from which I can play f4 now. And now I just go for the kill now, and I sacrifice the a5 pawn. I'm also just threatening to play f3. So here what I was thinking is if knight takes a5, I think f3 just wins the game pretty much. After something like bishop here, I mean, I can defend this, move the bishop out of the way, bring this here. And I don't really see any sort of defense for white here. Basically, they're playing down a piece, and yeah, playing down a piece is not ideal. That's probably the least thing I can say. And so if you're confused about this sacrifice, just know that like the bishop is just completely stuck. So I just went for that sacrifice. I went for f4. My opponent here played a really, really bad move. They played e takes f4. And the reason that's a blunder is for two reasons. First off, you open my bishop to the d4 square. And this, after takes is going to be really catastrophic. And second, you defended my a5 pawn. So here, I think my opponent like played this in like a minute and then played this in 7 seconds, which are both just horrible moves. So here I played bishop g4, threatening the rook. If here, I was planning to take here. And then after takes here, I think I was planning bishop d4. And that's just game over because I win the queen. Or if the rook takes, I can take here. So yeah, that would have been game over. So they can't do that. They went for rook c1. I mean, they should probably bring the rook closer to the king. Probably what can be said. And I would still go f3. Rook c1. And here I thought for like maybe a few minutes. And yeah, I was basically thinking about a lot of things. The two things that were basically on my mind were bishop d4 versus f3. And I'm right, both bishop d4 and f3 are the best moves, but bishop d4 is significantly worse than f3. And so after bishop d4, what I was calculating is I was calculating he would probably go with his knight back. And I thought that if I go bishop back to like a7 or b6 or wherever, I just wasn't sure whether it's just completely winning already. So the engine here says after d4, a move like f3 is like a lot worse than the other situation. I'm not entirely convinced. I just thought my bishop might be more flexible here, because in the future I could also threaten to take b2, but maybe it's better in the attack. Hard to say. So I went for f3 instead, bishop h1, and yeah, here I'm way too quick. I went for queen h3, threatening rook d5, rook h5, and if you notice, the only way to stop that is with queen d1, rook d5, and queen takes h3. Sorry, queen takes f3. So if that's white's only way to stop this, it can be said that, okay, probably white doesn't want to stop that. So instead they went for knight takes b7, and I went rook d5, and yeah, this is just game over. There's actually no way to stop this. Actually, there's one way. I just spotted it. See if you can find the one way that white can stop rook h5 and takes here mate. Okay, I mean, you can move the rook, but this is just delaying the inevitable because I then just take this one. So the only way to stop it is queen c5. Yeah, I don't think my opponent wanted to play queen c5. If he played queen c5, that would have been incredibly disrespectful, but he didn't. Instead, he resigned. And yeah, as you can see, this game I played pretty much perfect. I'm not sure if you can see the sort of here. I will, yeah. So 13 center pawn, a really good game by myself. And yeah, a nice comeback win versus in the other game I played 55 center pawn, my opponent played 18. In this one, my opponent played 42, I played 13. So yeah, just a really good game. I nurtured a small advantage from the opening, played a lot of good moves, took my time, and yeah, got a pretty nice win. Now, it wasn't the greatest win ever because this was against an opponent who was significantly lower rated than me again. But, I mean, what can you do? If you play two bad games against two higher rated opponents, the only thing you're supposed to do is beat the lower rated opponent. So at this point, I was 50%. But from here on out, all my games were against people who were like 1200 or less. So now their real strength is clearly not 1200 less. All of them were pretty underrated. But even if they're underrated, I don't think they're going to be underrated by like, upwards of 1,000 points. So I still had a pretty easy going after this round. But with that all said and done, I will see you guys in the next one. Please remember to leave a like and subscribe, and just let me know what kind of videos you would want to see next.